Yeah, so I want to discuss or share with you a couple of cases that I did in my work as a consultant. First, I want to introduce myself a bit, but Pierre already did that, but also introduce the company I work for a bit, because it's interesting, I think, for you guys to understand the type of cases, projects that we're doing. Okay, so this is me, but we can skip this part because I'm already introduced. For the people that want to send me an email, my email address is here, it's idc.com address. IDC Metri started out as Metri 17 years ago. We started out as a benchmarking company, so we benchmark IT contracts. After some years, we got so much data that we also started helping customers and suppliers make the best decisions regarding sourcing. So we added the sourcing practice, and now since a couple of years, there's the IT intelligence practice. This is what I like to call my practice. I'm responsible for the services that we do in this practice. We do typically services on application development, and application maintenance and support type of engagements. Where we do everything, let's say, for instance, the agile value management team assessments, how productive are your teams, can you improve, help you to improve. Also, portfolio analysis, what is the quality level in your portfolio, how can we modernize your applications. Software cost estimation, important part, and here we use ISBSG also a lot, because if you want to estimate something, you need data, and we are consultants, so we have to estimate for other companies that usually don't have data. So then your data, including the ISBSG data, is relevant. And we do application quality and risk assessments. So this is basically what we are doing. So this is a bit of introduction so you understand the type of cases that I also want to share with you today. Just a bit introduction to the topic. I think we all know that software and application and development and maintenance and support is still huge in the world, and there's a lot of money spent on software and application development. And what we see in our practice is that a lot of that money is wasted. You could have made better decisions if you use facts, if you use data. And that's why I chose this topic for today to talk about fact-based business decisions, to manage organizations, to make better decisions. And that's basically also what ISBSG stands for. So that's a good combination. First, a bit of introduction for people that are not familiar with ISBSG and functional size, because basically what ISBSG does is collect data from the industry worldwide. But as you need to compare things to other things, projects to other projects, you need some common denominator for size. And there are ISO standards out there that explain how you can measure the functional size of an application or of a project. And that's the basis for ISBSG data. Otherwise, you couldn't just compare the data to each other. Just to explain this concept a bit, I use this slide. Just okay. Whenever we want an application project release or sprint, for instance, for estimation or benchmark, but let's say for estimation, in many organizations, the project leader or whoever wants the estimate goes to the developers, to the testers, to the other designers, and ask them, okay, we have this set of requirements. How much is it going to cost you to do this? And they come back with an answer like, okay, that's 3 weeks, or that's 5 weeks, or it's a half a year. So they go directly from the problem to the effort, to the estimate. And then you can easily also calculate the cost because it's usually hourly rate business. But if you measure the size first, the functional size first, for instance with Nesma, so I'm from Nesma, that's why the Nesma logo is here. But it allows you to go to the estimation and benchmarking part. Because we have the data, for instance, here I've put here an example of ISBSG. So you select a data set in ISBSG data, and you look at the distribution of the data, and you try to figure out, okay, what would be a good project delivery rate. So it's the what we call productivity, but it's universally defined the other way around. That's why we call it product delivery rate. And you can see, for instance, here likely is 7.8 hours per function point. So it allows you also to understand what is a realistic range, what could be high, what could be low. And for instance, you measure your requirement set, it's 1,000 function points, and you can already understand, okay, for this, if this is the right data set, and okay, you can tweak a bit with that, of course, by selecting some different data, by removing some outliers. But you have kind of a very early understanding where you are going to be with your project estimate. So I just wanted to include these two slides for the people that don't know the ISBSG data or not the concept of functional sizing. Probably not too many out there that don't know these concepts, but still a little bit of introduction. And this is what Paula was mentioning. So the data, this is the development and enhancement data set is released just 2 months ago. And it has 11,281 rows. And these are all project sprints or releases. You can, of course, make your own filtering and your own selections. And because it's in Excel, it's really easy to use. You can make pivot tables, you can make all kinds of graphs and analysis tabs. And here I highlighted the functional size. So we have all the standards there, the ISO standards, and we collect also other size measurements, but well, these are usually not standardized and not easy to compare. But this is just a bit of an intro. So I would like to go now first into my first case, and this is where we helped also where we help organizations to understand which are teams that are performing very well and which are teams that could do better, and how we use the data for that. So here, for instance, these are typically the metrics that we collect or calculate in our agile value management and team assessments. So we have first 4 metrics are the team metrics, and these are the metrics that we actually use also when we do the benchmarks with the ISBSG data. And you have a number of product metrics because, yeah, okay, you have a very productive or cost-efficient team, but if the quality that is produced is very bad, then it's still not good for anyone. And you see there's a lot of difference in the market between good, well-performing teams and badly performing teams. The industry here is 0%, and you can see there's a huge variation there. And the issue with agile teams is that often what you want as a user, as a business, are the green blocks in this thing. So you see on the y-axis you see the capacity, for instance, 1,000 hours that the team has in a sprint, and here you have the time. So you see in the beginning of a project, let's say a greenfield project, a lot of time can be spent on making new functionality. But as time progresses and sprint after sprint, more tasks are going to be there. There's going to be code refactoring. Product owner will want to change something or remove something from the product. And you see that capacity spent on new functionality is decreasing if you're not careful. And if you need to have a minimal viable product ready at point X in time, you need to understand where you are with your teams. So this is the kind of thing that we do in our studies. And it's important to understand that when the teams use story points to estimate, let's say if they are very consistent, this capacity is 100 story points, this capacity is 100 story points, etc. So you may still think that you're doing the right thing, right? Because you're very predictable. Your 100 story points every sprint is going to be made. But you can see here that a lot of the story points is spent on stuff that you don't want to spend it on because business wants the green blocks. And so this insights you don't get from the story points, you get it from the function points, because these are the things that you can measure with the function points. So that's an important difference between the functional points and the story points in the practice. So once you measure, for instance, your productivity, and I said productivity, but it's a project delivery rate, for instance, 14.4 hours per function point here in this agile team. I anonymize this because, yeah, you never know. Then you can also benchmark that against, for instance, ISBSG data, the median or the average, And you can see in this case, for instance, productivity index is the performance of the team against the industry average. So let's say the industry average was 15 hours per function point, and apparently this team is a bit better because the PDR is lower. And they are 4% better than the industry. And this you can do for the other metrics as well, like cost per function point, the speed, which is the function points per month, number of defects per function point or per 1,000 function points is actually the right metric. Value delivered is a function points per €1,000. And you can just benchmark those and understand if you do this, okay, this team is quite good with the process, but they're not so good with the cost. Maybe that's not such a bad problem. Maybe there are the senior guys here on this team, and that's why they're productive. So you can get all these kinds of insights, and then you can, for instance, benchmark them like we do here. We see here productivity index, and you see all the teams that we measured here, and you see them improve over time, which is good. And we see also that some teams still have a way to go, and some teams are already quite good. But this is also the benchmark against the average. And you can do it like this, because for instance, this may be a COBOL team, and maybe their productivity is like 20 hours per function point, but they're still much better than market average, while maybe your Java team that does 12 hours per function point is doing worse than market average. So you can compare your teams to each other and to the market to understand which teams are performing better than other teams. And we have the same thing on the portfolio level, which is maybe for management, it's interesting to see how are my teams doing against the industry. And it really helps you to make decisions. Okay, should have a couple of teams, maybe they should adopt better practices that the other teams are using. All kinds of analysis and decisions you can make. Okay, I come to my second case. So how to use the output-based KPIs and application development contracts. So this is typically what we see is that a lot of contracts at the moment are basically hourly rate contracts when it comes to application development. You see organizations trying to get the developers from the big IT companies, as they're working on agile, where a lot of change is happening all the time, they can't have the output-based contracts, they think, because change happens all the time. So they use time material hourly rates, but this is of course a very bad situation for the customer, as they are now going to pay for hours, but they want things to be delivered in fewer hours and not in more hours. Well, the supplier will think, hey, I want to invoice as many hours as possible. So that is a bit of a strange situation in the market where you want to get out of, and this is one of the frameworks that we use to measure and to assess vendors when it comes to output. So you see here the better, happier, faster, cheaper. These are kind of the things that people usually want in a contract. And if you have a number of metrics here, these are the typical metrics we use with CAST. That's a code quality driven measurement tool. Happier is a bit soft, of course. You have to ask the guys and if you're happy or not, so you need a questionnaire for that. But here we have the more, well, like the metrics that I also showed in the last case, where we have the cheaper and the faster metrics. And here, the ISBSG, so there's a lot of stuff here, but you can see here the balanced scorecard with metrics I just mentioned. And you can see that you need to understand what is a realistic target for every metric, where you want to go to together with your vendor. You want to say at the end, okay, we're now there where we want to be. And ISBSG can be used for establishing the targets of a number of these categories. So that can be very helpful because you want, of course, your vendor to be at least market average. And as I said, if you don't have these targets and they can just, yeah, they don't have a real incentive to be more productive or more cost efficient. So you need to understand at least where you are, where you want to go, and ISBSG data helps to set those targets. Let me see now, much time do I still have, because I have a couple of cases to go. Okay. If you want to estimate a large project, this is another case, and also monitor over time, ISBSG data is also helpful. I already showed you a short estimation example earlier. But what a lot of people or organizations don't know is that you can do it already very early in the phase, in the project lifecycle. And you can already have a high-level function point analysis done when you only have the features, not well written, but let's say high-level requirements. Put on the product backlog. Okay, the system should do approximately these type of things. And then based on kind of modeling the data model, understanding a bit of the data model, you can already do the higher level function point analysis. And then once the backlog is growing and things are added and requirements are better defined, they go into a release, and we can do a more detailed analysis, not a detailed analysis, but let's say the estimated one. This is, I think, what we call it. And you know approximately, okay, I have a certain capacity in my teams, and okay, well, how much can we do in the next program increment, and which features should we put in there, and yeah, you can do it like that. And then also in the sprints, the features are becoming usually the user stories. You can easily measure the user stories, one by one. So you can just see how many function points these represent. And then also make decisions, maybe use it for prioritization by the product owner, just to understand how much work is there. And this is more or less, let's say, understanding how much green blocks from the block picture I just showed you a couple of minutes ago, because here the user stories will get the function points, and if the function point is 0, it means there's no functionality added, modified, or removed. So it's not a user story. It should probably be a task or something else. So you can do the function point analysis in different phases of a project. And then, yeah, this is basically what I showed before. Then if you just select the right data set in the ISBSG data or in your own data set, and try to understand what is the distribution. Well, this is again the same example, but you see that, for instance, between the P30 and the P70, there's only like 3 hours per function point difference, while your sample size is 151, which is quite good. So it is, of course you can always make different decisions, but what we usually advise is just to use the median, using not the average, because the average, the data is usually skewed to the right, and then with the average you probably are too high. And if you then measure your system that you have to build, and you know your capacity, and you know what is your blended rate, then you can easily make this calculation and understand how much it will cost and how many sprints you'll need. Of course, this is an important step. So the selection of your data set and the decision about which value are you going to use for the lower and for the higher and for the likely range. These are important decisions. And some organizations may say, okay, we are professional, IT company, we think we are better than the market, so we take maybe even the P20 or the P10. But at least you also know that if a company, if the experts say, yeah, we are going to build this thing in 2,000 hours, the chance is very low that they're going to do that, because then they think it's too small. They're too optimistic. Let's put it like that. And once you have, of course, your size, this is the great part, is that of agile at least, is that they measure sprints, or they do sprints, and afterwards you can measure what they did. So this is basically what we also did in the agile team measurement. So you can easily measure after every sprint. It takes only maybe half an hour to understand how much functionality was created. You can just already very early see if your productivity that you estimated was right or wrong, or on the low side or on the high side. And that gives a lot of extra information that you don't get from, for instance, story point type of metrics. All right, that was another case. I hope you are still interested in seeing another case. This is what work we did for a very large international software supplier, system integrator, and they had to bid for a European Union contract, which was based on the price per cosmic point. So Cosmic is also one of the standards for functional size measurement, like Nesma, like ISBSG, Visma. So these are basically the ones that are in use. And Cosmic is a different method than ISBSG and Nesma, and it's hard to also to convert Cosmic to Nesma points. There have been, or to ISBSG points, there have been some studies. But as the methods are so different, you have to be very reluctant with that. But good thing, the ISBSG data set has also a lot of Cosmic projects in there, so we could make an analysis. So what we have to do here is put for different categories a price or then hours per Cosmic point for small, medium, large, and these are defined somewhere else. What is small, medium, and large? For application development and for the application maintenance and support. And then with a blended rate, you can calculate the cost per function point. And so here we used data set. So the language was Java in this case. We used government industry sector as Cosmic, government counterpart Cosmic. Function sizes, so this is the example for under 500. And you get a lot of data, data with productivity rates, and then you just easily put them here in the same thing again. And in this case, system integrator, of course, had to win the bid, so they couldn't go for the median or the P75. But I think they went in the end for the P25, and they got awarded the contract, which was, I think, maybe even that 150 million euro worth contract. So you can see if you don't have the data, how can you ever understand what type of productivity rate or price you could offer to this company? It's the only way if you have this data to do that. And this is 150 million that is decided on this productivity rate. That is incredible. But these things happen also in the industry. I'm approaching the end of my presentation. I have a number of key takeaways. So I started, I would say, business leaders spent a lot of money on application-related work. And often a lot of money is wasted, and they don't know how to make better decisions because they just don't have the data. I showed that sizing is an important step in these type of business decisions making, because without the size you can't do the estimation, the benchmark, and all the other stuff that you do that we do to compare things and to understand things. Well, it shows you the ISBSG data, easy to use in Excel, and a couple of practical examples that I don't want to mention again. So we have seen those. I wanted to bring to your attention one more thing. So Nesma is organizing also together with Cosmic organization Software Cost Management Summit in Haarlem in the Netherlands. It's a physical event where we have a couple of exciting speakers. So we have, for instance, the CIO of the Dutch Tax Office. They have a team of functional size measurement experts and metrics experts. And he will show how that works in practice with those teams. And we have a lot of other people here also that are industry leaders when it comes to estimation, cost management, and these type of activities. And I've put here the link in the presentation where you can also register. If you use the code, you get a discount. One more slide. So if you are interested, you don't have the data yet, and you are interested in obtaining a copy of ISBSG data, then go to the website. I've put it here. And so you see it's not for free. The data is of course an important part of the ISBSG organization. But the value that it will bring is enormous, especially if, for instance, you have to bid for a 150 million euro contract and you don't have data. Then, it's easy to see how buying the data will help you, and is a good idea. All right. I forgot this. If you subscribe, it's usually a good idea to become a member of one of the ISBSG members first. In this case, I'm from Nesma, but Visma or Visma or another local organization, then probably you will get a discount via that organization as well. All right. Well, this is my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and maybe there are some questions.